Today, we are taking a train trip through the Netherlands, along one of the country's lesser-known regional lines. Join us as we take a late afternoon journey through Holland's flat but picturesque landscapes, and find out why this line is getting new trains a little bit earlier than you might expect. Today, we are traveling from Rotterdam, the Netherlands' second largest city, to the small town of Geldermalsen, some 60 kilometers away, to meet some friends. There are a few ways to make this journey, but I decided to take a route that I'd never done before. We will be taking a train to Dordrecht and transferring there to our second train. Our trip starts at Rotterdam Blaak station. Blaak is an underground railway station one stop south of the central station. The neighborhood surrounding the station is home to some of the most architecturally fascinating buildings in Rotterdam, including the Markthal and the Qbuzz. Blaak is an interchange station. On one level, you can board lines A, B, and C of the Rotterdam Metro. Below that are 4 tracks used by NS trains. NS is the National Railway Operating Company, famous for their yellow and blue trains. Blaak is served by some, but not all, of the NS intercity trains that travel through here, and by all of the local services, also known as sprinters. Here comes a sprinter to Dordrecht. We will take it to its final stop. The train we are on is part of NS's SNG fleet, which is short for Sprinter New Generation. NS has a total of 206 of these trains, which were built by CAF in Spain. The first one entered service in 2018, and with toilets, Wi-Fi, and phone chargers on board, they include a lot of features that the older Sprinter trains did not have. It's just a short journey to Dordrecht. We travel through the south of Rotterdam, then after we leave the city behind us, we pass the Kijfhoek, the country's largest and most important freight rail yard. See, the Rotterdam harbor is huge and acts as a gateway to much of Europe. Many goods travel by train, and this yard is a sorting yard, making sure everything goes to the right place. Then, once we've crossed the bridge over the Oude Maas River, it means that we are arriving in Dordrecht. A city with a little over 120,000 people, Dordrecht is a nice town. In high school, I had some friends who lived here, so I always enjoyed visiting. We don't have any time to enjoy this place today, though. We have a very tight connection. Our train arrived on track 3A. Our next train, the local service to Geldermalsen, leaves from track 15. To get there, we need to climb up to the overpass, pass through the fare gates twice, and then walk some distance to the platform. And we have to do this all in less than 2 minutes. The reason you have to go through fare gates twice is because the next train is operated by a different company, one that is not NS. Well, the good news is we made it. Here is our train. It is sporting a bright red and dark gray livery, and it was quite packed. It's a little after 4 in the afternoon, so that makes sense. These are electric multiple units, but unlike normal electric trains, where the equipment is spread throughout the train, these trains have all the equipment concentrated in an electric power pack in the middle, which you can walk through. So we finally found a seat, and just in time as we're about to depart. It is going to be a 50-minute journey from here to Geldermalsen. Along the way, we will make 10 intermediate stops. Let's take a quick seat tour. We're in second class today, and seats are arranged in a 2x2 configuration. The seats have power sockets, and they have tables. As a bonus, with your table, you might get the leftover sandwich wrapper of the person who rode before you. Like I said a few minutes ago, this train is not yellow and blue on the outside. It's not operated by NS. This train is operated by Qbuzz instead. The Dutch railway network is actually divided into 2 different networks. There's the main railway network, consisting of the most important lines, and these are operated by NS. Then there are the regional lines. On these lines, companies can compete for a contract to operate them. It's the provincial governments who award the contract to the winning bidder, and a contract is good for a fixed period of time. After that, it's tendered again. Until 2006, it was NS who operated this line. They used their iconic MAT 64 trains, which, by the way, have returned to service on a different line after an almost 9-year retirement. In 2006, a company known as Arriva took over service. They introduced new trains, the GTW model built by Swiss company Stadler. They wore the same white and red livery, that Arriva trains all over the Netherlands wore in the 2000s and 2010s. After that contract was over, Qbuzz won the rights to operate service, and the takeover happened in 2018. Qbuzz inherited the GTW trains from Arriva, but the repainting and refurbishment did not happen until 2020 and 2021. Since the refurbishment, the trains now carry the Arnet logo on them. Arnet is a branding for public transportation in the west of the Netherlands. It was first introduced in 2011, and it has been applied to buses operated by different agencies, as well as the metro in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, and some trams in Amsterdam and The Hague. There are also 2 train lines that are branded as Arnet. One of them is the one that we are on, and the other runs between Gouda and Alphen aan den Rijn. Here's the tricky thing. Arnet is not a company, it's just a regional branding thing. So the 2 different Arnet trains are operated by different companies. One of them is operated by NS, and so when you're transferring from one NS train to another, you don't have to tap in and out. But the train we are on is not operated by NS, so you do have to tap in and out. 2 trains that have the same branding but different rules for passengers, I think that's a little confusing. It's a discrepancy that makes me wish that Qbuzz trains would carry their own livery, or even better, they would just abolish having to tap when you transfer between trains of 2 different companies. We've switched out our urban scenery for some beautiful green farmscapes. The line we are on is sometimes called the MerwedeLingelijn. Say that 10 times fast. This name combines the 2 rivers that the route parallels. Technically, the MerwedeLingelijn forms part of the longer Betuwe-lijn between Dordrecht and Elst, near Arnhem. This line was opened in stages between 1882 and 1885. Service along the line is split into 3. The Qbuzz service from Dordrecht to Geldermalsen, the NS service from Geldermalsen to Tiel, and Arriva service from Tiel to Arnhem. The Betuwe-lijn is not to be confused with the Betuwe-route, the dedicated freight railway that opened in 2007 to give freight trains a quicker route from the harbor in Rotterdam to Germany. We do run parallel to that freight line on several occasions. Our section of this line was electrified in 1992, and today there's a train every 15 minutes between Dordrecht and Gorinchem, with half of those trains continuing past Gorinchem to Geldermalsen. Like I said earlier, the trains that Qbuzz is running on this line are inherited from the previous company and were refurbished in 2020 and 2021. They're only about 20 years old. One point that some people took issue with was the fact that during the refurbishment, they did not install toilets on these trains. Now, just a few years ago, some people had brought a case to the Dutch Institute for Human Rights about mandating toilets on trains. The decision in that case was basically that not having a toilet does not count as discrimination, but that jurisdictions should strongly consider mandating them. Well, South Holland, the province that oversees this line, did not mandate them, so they were not installed, and there were a few advocacy groups that lobbied very hard to get them installed anyway. Well, a compromise was reached where toilets were installed at the stations, but then in 2024, Qbuzz announced that they were ordering a brand new fleet of CAF Civity trains, almost identical to the NS Sprinter that we just rode earlier, and these trains will come with toilets, which is what a lot of local media picked up on. Now, these new trains will enter service in 2027, but they're longer, heavier, and use more power than the old trains, so quite a few modifications to the line have to be made. Now, the question is, why would you replace trains that are just 20 years old and have only recently been refurbished with brand new trains? Surely it's not just because of the toilets. It's not, although you'd be forgiven for thinking so if you just glanced at a headline. It actually has to do with the train protection system. Around Dordrecht station, the tracks are about to be overhauled. They currently use an old Dutch train protection system known as ATB, but they're about to switch over to the Universal European System, ERTMS. And when that happens, any train that enters Dordrecht station has to be compatible with the ERTMS train protection system. These old GTW trains are not, but converting them would be too expensive, so they decided to order new trains instead. In the process, Qbuzz struck a deal with South Holland. They would get new trains and run exclusively electric buses in this region by 2030. In return, the province will extend their contract by 7 years. It was supposed to end this December, but instead it will end in December 2033. The province will also select a site for a new rail yard where the new trains can be maintained. Since Qbuzz only operates one line in the Netherlands, I'm very curious what will happen to these old GTW trains, which are only about 20 years old. And with that, we've arrived at our final destination, Geldermalsen, where transfer is available again to NS trains. It was a pleasant ride, traveling through a nice part of the country that I don't know as well. If you'd like to see more train content from here and around the world, please subscribe to Trains Are Awesome. Thank you so much for watching today. We'll see you next time.